Hello, folks. It's Fallon this week for an extra bit. It's barren out there, like news-wise, in the gaming world. And there's really not much that's out there at all. I scanned a number of the sites that we usually look for news in the gaming industry for this past week, and turned up pretty much nothing. So you're getting a double feature today. That's how I turn this around. I take a barren wasteland of news stories and I double down. So this is what we're going to do. First of all, there's this article on GameSpot that basically talks about EA's comeback, as it were, from being, quote, the worst company in America. But just in case you think that they won that award this year, that's not true. When they won it was back in 2013. This article is actually about how EA, in particular, represented by Peter Moore, he's the EA executive, is how they turned over a new leaf at that point. Last time they won this award was 2013. Apparently they won it twice in a row, and they beat out Bank of America and a couple other people. The fact of the matter is, the top worst companies in America on this online poll thing are always like the same 10 or 12 or 20. I mean, really. Verizon's always up there. Comcast is always up there. Bank of America, a few other ones that you probably are familiar with. These companies are always up there. EA's been up there more or less. They haven't always won, but they've been on the list. And once you're on this list, it's hard to get off because once people form an opinion of you, then they tend to keep it regardless of what you do. I don't think EA is overly terrible as a company. I don't think they're much worse than any of the other companies that are on that list. I think that really this is, as the article points out, it's an online poll. It's consumer perception, not reality. And I think that people just stick with the old standbys, without any reason to really hate them, or any kind of fairness to that assessment. So I'm giving EA a little bit of props here anyway, that, 2012, 2013 was still coming off probably one of the worst economic crises in America. And every company was shedding employees. It was a rough time for everyone. I personally lived through that and lost my job, during that time. And so it's it was a rough spot for everybody, and nobody was very happy with anything. So it's like, well, context matters. EA, yes, like any other game company, has its moments where it's just a colossal failure. But really, I feel like Ubisoft and Blizzard and the rest of them are just as bad in their own special ways too. And I've argued that on the show before. So that's the first thing. And I, like I said, I feel like the commentary here is a PR job a few years after the fact. And that's amusing in and of itself when they say, for example, that, and there's this moment we all stop and think it's not about revenue. It's not about what benefits EA. It's a player first model, which they've been pushing in the past few years. I find that amusing because yes, the revenue does matter. Yes, what benefits EA does matter. But that stuff does not have to be separate or exclusive from player first as well. In other words, these things are not either or. They can be and both. You can help generate revenue and profit and benefit to EA by making things player first. Those things do not have to be mutually exclusive. They can in fact synergize very well. Not always, but, generally companies that are good to their customers tend to do pretty well. I mean, ask Amazon, who is great to its customers, not necessarily its employees all the time, but it's great to its customers. As a longtime Amazon customer, I can go ahead and vouch for them. And Mitch, I know, has plenty of good stories about them too. So, and Amazon's been on a tear forever, as far as its growth and everything else. Yes, its stock earnings and everything else don't reflect that because they tend to reinvest everything they make back into the system instead of giving it over to their shareholders. And some people feel that that's not necessarily a great thing, but I think it is. I think that public companies should do what Amazon's doing more often and reinvest their money rather than handing it out. I'm sure the shareholders don't want to hear that kind of stuff, but I really do feel like Amazon is on a good track there. So as a company who is making out by treating customers well and by improving their services and what they offer to people, they serve as a good model for a company, that shows that profit and player first or customer first doesn't have to be mutually exclusive things. The second article of our double feature today is the VR mode for Dead or Alive. Dead or Alive 3, Extreme 3, I think, with those volleyball girls again. Only this time with the VR, they've designed this game, and I'm not certain. I don't think they list anybody here in particular about who designed it, but I'm sure you can find their names in the credits of this particular game, where you can basically touch and feel up and basically harass these girls, and of course they can't do anything to you. Now, the person on Polygon, Allegra Frank, who basically wrote this piece, basically pointed out that this is kind of looking for the word, it's kind of I don't know, dangerous or horrifying. I can't figure out the word being used here, but basically, it's scarier is one of the words being used. That somebody would design a game wherein it basically encourages and allows players, particularly assumingly male players, to feel up these girls in their bikinis and everything through the virtual reality without them being able to do anything about it. Basically encouraging the kind of harassment that would never fly or not be good in quote real life. So basically giving an out for virtual reality for the harassment that would not be okay. I take the view of like, okay, well, all this still looks like softcore porn to me, and the porn industry has provided entertainment to particular people, a number of people throughout its history, featuring acts that, frankly, if you put them in any other milieu or context, degrade women, men to some extent, but women especially, and not acts that are typically seen as being very respectful or understanding of a woman's body or looking at her as anything other than a sexual object. So what's new here? I mean, is really what I want to say. It's like, okay, yes, I don't condone, encouraging harassment of girls anywhere, but these are virtual girls, and I suppose, like anything else, the argument could be made to justify that, oh, well, better that they shoot people in game rather than in real life, right? Better that they fill up girls in game rather than real life, And I suppose as long as that doesn't translate over into, condoning or encouraging this kind of behavior in real life, which it hopefully won't, and it hopefully shouldn't, I don't really see the problem here. I mean, I think the game should have an NC-17 label or whatever, at least the equivalent of an R-rated label. In this respect, because of what it allows you to do, I think there should definitely be a push towards informing gamers that this is behavior that you should not ever engage in real life. Kind of like they do in those videos, on TV shows sometimes where they show people like doing all kinds of stunts, and they give you that little, it's kind of like, in the beginning of Jackass, and I know I'm dating myself a little bit here, but, in the beginning of Jackass movies, for example, all the stunts were performed by, professionals or whatever. Do not try these at home. I think the same kind of warning should go along with these virtual boobs, and this virtual harassment. It's like, okay, this is virtual reality. This is not real. And these girls are not real. And you should never do this to real girls or women or anyone else for that matter. So, I think that, as long as that is maintained, as long as the people playing this game to get their jollies off do this, then, and know this, then that's, I don't see a problem with it. I mean, I've already predicted, and we've already had a lot of fun on the show with predicting, when VR is really going to take off, when you have a full set of peripherals for full-on VR porn that you can participate on. And I know that's over the horizon. I know it's coming. I know that, and no pun intended. And I know that, it's inevitable. So, I mean, people will pay for it, and it should be limited to adults, yes. But it's coming, okay? And so, I mean, we've had it in our society before. There isn't a direct correlation between, for example, watching porn or playing violent video games and the respective effects that, the equivalent actions in society. There doesn't appear to be any solid correlation there. So, if people want to do it, as long as it doesn't translate into real life, I don't really see a problem with it. It's not behavior I would ever condone in real life, but in virtual reality, as long as the person on the other end who is the recipient of said action isn't actually a real life person, I'm good with that. Now, when we get into a situation in VR where there is actual real individuals representing those characters on the other side, and they receive the effects of that sort of unwanted attention, then there's an issue. But for right now, as long as it's like, AI girls who are not representing or standing in for as avatars for anyone else on the other end, I don't really see the issue with this. I think that certain sensitive people will. I think they certainly have an argument, but it's not one that I really take issue with. So that's your double header feature today. And I'll look forward to doing another one of these in a couple weeks.
If this episode wasn't enough, you can get even more Pause Your Game content right now by following us on social media. Twitter, Facebook, Pinterest, and hell, we're even on Google+. Just search for Pause Your Game and follow or like us today to get even more content throughout your day. And if you want to support the show, make your next game purchase at Amazon through our link, pauseyourgame.com/Amazon. And a portion of your sale will go towards us, helping us not only make more, but better content as well. We hope you enjoyed this episode and look forward to you listening next time.